Hi, and welcome to show number 40 of the elcafecitotraveltalks, a podcast where people share travel stories and adventures. My name is Tony Lloyd, and I'm your host. For this show, I'm going to replay a holiday special, which was aired on Christmas Day in Montreal on the radio station 105.1 Mic FM. For the show, I actually interviewed 6 different people on 6 different continents and asked them 6 different questions. Since it is a bit longer than my normal format, this will be broken down into 2 parts. So this episode will be part 1, and then please tune in for part 2. But before we start, I'd like to remind everyone that if you would like to contribute to this program, please take a look at our podcast notes to see how you could do so. All donations will be gratefully appreciated. Our Facebook page has the written stories. If you're someone who likes to write or have an idea for a future podcast, please send me an email to elcafecitotraveltalks@gmail.com. Any questions or comments that you might have on any one of our shows, and any way on how I could improve on the shows, please send me an email to elcafecitotraveltalks@gmail.com. So without further ado, I'd like you to get yourself a cup of tea or a coffee and enjoy today's show. Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to 105.1 Mic FM Holiday Special. My name is Tony Lloyd, speaking to you from Cuenca, Ecuador. I'm a world traveler and host of the podcast El Cafecito Travel Talks. Thank you for joining us. Today, Mic FM and I would like to invite you and your family on a virtual journey to 6 different continents where we'll meet 6 different people, and they will be sharing, along with myself, their answers of 6 different questions about the holiday season. Just before we meet up with my other guests, I'd like to give you a little bit about myself. I'm Canadian, Jamaican, British. I've also lived in 7 different countries and visited many others throughout the world. With over 20 years experience working in the hospitality industry, mainly in South America. I've also contributed for guidebooks such as The Lonely Planet, Rough Guide, and Footprint. Most recently started a podcast called El Cafecito Travel Talks, where people share travel stories and adventures. So if you're someone who likes to travel, dream about travel, I invite you to listen in to El Cafecito Travel Talks on any one of your podcast providers. And now to start off with, I'd like to introduce each of my guests from Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America. Buckle your seatbelts and we're off on our journey.
Mike.
Hey, my name is Fabian Clavizzle. I'm 36 old and I'm a gay male living in Sydney. I love it here. I love going outdoors, exercising, going to F45. I love drinking and I have a job in the wine industry, so that kind of keeps me quite satisfied as a marketer.
Okay. Fabian, we actually met a few years ago in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia.
Way back when.
Way back when. So it's good to catch up.
Yeah, when I was young and innocent.
We were all young and innocent at some point.
Hi, my name is Manon Raja. So you pronounce it Manon, it's a French name. I am a traveler, you can say, a solo traveler. I belong to Kashmir, which is a disputed area in between India and Pakistan. But I grew up in France and I studied in England and I was born in Saudi Arabia. I have visited 29 countries so far. Normally, I was supposed to be an accountant, but I chose not to be, and I chose to become a traveler.
Well, I think the other thing that's very interesting, and the reason why I reached out to try to communicate with you, and you're representing our area for Asia right now. At this current moment, you're in Pakistan, right?
Yes, and especially Kashmir. Kashmir is a place which is a disputed place in this world. Like Palestine and Kashmir are 2 places which are disputed. And I think there is Sudan or maybe another place. Yeah. So yeah, Asia, yes.
You have an interesting backstory also. Could you explain a little bit about that?
Basically, how and why I started traveling is because I was hospitalized for 9 months. I was supposed to travel to London for a business trip. I was a businesswoman. I was an entrepreneur, and I never imagined that I would take time off and go travel and discover the world. I love history. I used to read books and watch documentaries, but never got time. But then those 9 months where I couldn't even walk, talk, eat, drink, and I was on a ventilator, on a life support machine for 15 days, and I was declared dead for 5 days. So when I came out of that coma and when I was transferred to a normal ward for 4 months, I just had a window in front of me where I could just see a mountain. I decided that when I go out of this hospital, I would go on top of that mountain. And this is how I love of traveling and my passion of traveling started. Meanwhile, when I was declared dead, and obviously doctors said that I will never be normal, I will never be able to eat and walk or talk normally. I had nasovaginal pipes, I had drainage pipes, I had oxygen all the time with me. I had my urine pipe with me all the time. So my brother gave me a book which says that 100 places, in French it said on the book, 100 places to visit before you die. So I read that book and then I decided that before I die, I will visit those places.
You were in the hospital room, you recovered, you made it up the mountain, I assume?
I did, because it seemed so far and so big to me, but actually it was just like 2 minutes drive. But then I made up to Adam's Peak. I went to Sri Lanka and I hiked at 2 a.m. I did my IV. I hiked at 2 a.m. and I reached the top where Adam, I believe everybody knows where he stepped his first feet when he came from heaven. I belong from a Muslim, like from Pakistan, India, Kashmir. So we're majority are Muslim. So my religion is Islam. So we believe in Hazrat Adam. He came and his first step was in Sri Lanka. So when I went up there, I reached there at 6 a.m. and then I came back at 9. So I hiked nonstop with my inhaler and my medicines. And then when I came back, I went to the hospital and I did my IV. And I said, okay, now one of my dream is completed because I wanted to hike a mountain. And then I came back from Sri Lanka.
And now currently you are able to travel without inhalers or without an IV attached to you, right?
Not without an inhaler, not without my medicines. I can still not eat normally. I can, my appetite did increase. I do eat more than 5 spoons a day now. I can eat 10, but not at once. It's like 2 to 3 spoons at a time. But I am able to walk more. I became a Muay Thai boxer. I'm working out daily. I'm going to the gym. But I reduced my IV. I don't have to do my IVs every day. I can do them twice or thrice a week or once a week, and I'm okay with it.
Okay.
But I'm losing a lot of weight. I'm 48 kg now, and I'm really tall. So I need the IVs, but I'm trying not to have them.
Your story is very special, and people, I hope, will look you up on the internet and see some more about that. For now, I'd like to thank you for joining us for the holiday special.
Second thing is, I will highly recommend to watch my TED Talk, which is about willpower and determination. Because when I was said that I will not survive and I will not be able to eat, I didn't give up. And I proved my doctors wrong. Even till now, they don't believe that I can eat, even though it's just few spoons, but I proved them wrong.
My name is Chiboni Evans. My middle name is actually Rosalind, so that's an interesting fact about me. I am half Zambian, half South African, and I am currently located in South Africa, which is where my mother comes from. I lived and was raised most of my life in Zambia because my mother was exiled into Zambia under the South African apartheid system. She went there and fought the struggle from that end. So I'm what they call a product of exile. So from the original DNA, I think I started out as somebody who had traveled out from where I should have been born. But I currently reside in South Africa and have been here since 1995, when South Africa was liberated. And
could you explain to me a little bit about your travel experience?
Right, so I've been traveling. Well, obviously, as a young child, we didn't get to travel very much because, as I said, my mother was a political refugee in Zambia. But I think from as early as about 7, we would have been brought into South Africa, but smuggled in when she had the urge to actually see her family. So it was very rare that we saw my mother's side of the family. From the age of 13, I began traveling in earnest. I went to school in a country called Swaziland, and that's when my real travels began. So I was about 14, 15. And then thereafter, I went to college in the United Kingdom, in Wales. And then after that, I went to college in London. Yeah, and currently I work for an organization called the South African Electrotechnical Export Council, which is a public-private partnership between the Department of Trade and Industry and the private sector in the electrotechnical space. And our function is to try and facilitate the international trade of our member companies in the energy, electrotechnical, electronics, and ICT sectors. So that means that my job involves a lot of travel. So I travel, I would think, other than this year, 2020, I would be on an aeroplane at least once every 6 weeks, going somewhere with a group of South African companies.
My name is Tony Giles. I'm from England. I'm totally blind, partially deaf, and I travel around the world.
Tony, the last time we spoke was actually for my podcast, elcafecitotraveltalks. We were talking about your journey being a solo backpacker who's been to 125 countries. Obviously, this year, 2020, as the whole world knows, we've been in a situation where it's been a little bit more difficult to travel, but it's great catching up with you. How was your summer? What have you been up to?
Well, I was traveling sort of the first part of the year. I actually went to Africa. I was in Botswana and Zimbabwe and Zambia when the COVID started sort of coming into Africa. So I was managed to sort of catch a last minute flight back to the UK. Got me twice as much in normal. And I landed on April Fool's Day, April the 1st.
Okay.
I've been in the UK ever since because I've got also kidney problems. So I've been sheltering and just basically staying at my home, just buying groceries and trying to shield and keep away from people. And then actually been editing my third travel book. I've got 2 travel books already out on the internet. So I've just been editing my third one, which I'm hoping to get out just before Christmas. And then, just planning trips for next year, hopefully. Once we get the vaccine, which be hopefully sort of January, February, and then hopefully get out to Asia. And my first sort of trip will be to sort of Bangladesh and Bhutan if I can.
Throughout your travel throughout the world, have you ever been to Canada?
Yeah, I've been to Canada several times. In fact, I've been to all 10 provinces. My girlfriend and I, we went last year. It was the summertime, and we sort of started in Toronto, then went down to the falls, and we went up through Montreal and also Quebec City. And then we flew up to Labrador and Newfoundland. And when we got to Labrador, we landed, it was in mid-June, and we landed in a blizzard. And then the next sort of 2 days was sunny, and then the day we left, it was raining.
Okay, and do you remember your time in Montreal?
Fantastic. I've been in Montreal 2 times. And the first time I was there in the summer, and the jazz festival was just starting up, so that was pretty cool. And then when my girlfriend and I went back last year, 2019, we spent 4 days there, and it was lovely. We walked around the city. We went to the main street in the night, and heard lots of music, and people went to the old harbour. People sort of busking and walked around. That was lovely, especially in the summer. It's a great city.
My name is Carlos Penuela. I am from Colombia, from a city named Ibagué. I'm 46 years old, and I work in the hotel industry.
Okay, Carlos, we actually met about 15 years ago in the northern part of Colombia, up by Santa Marta, in a little town called Taganga, at a friend's beach house. And then later on, when I lived in Colombia, we both were living in Bogota at the same time.
Exactly, and I happen to be now in the same place where we met, huh? What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. Being from Colombia, there's not a lot of Colombians that do a lot of international traveling. So could you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yes, I started in my 20s. I had this crisis in my life, and I went on seek therapy, and I realized that, that I want to travel, that I want to see the world, that I want to experience myself and get to know myself through traveling, which is an amazing way to do it. And I took 1 year off, and I went to the Middle East, some Asia, Europe, and then again came back, stayed 3 months, took another 6 months, of. And then ever since, that was like 20 years ago, ever since, I take a few months out of the year to travel and keep discovering new cultures and new things to feel alive and to connect to new people and things. Mm-hmm.
Okay. You said that you lived in Canada for a year. What part of Canada were you living?
I lived in Vancouver for a year, and I've been to a few times to Canada, and it's a beautiful country. Love Montreal, love Toronto, love the West Coast. Everything is amazing people, amazing country.
Okay, so our audience that are listening to us from Montreal will be happy to hear that.
That's fantastic. I'm happy that somebody listens to me there. It's such a beautiful place.
In your time traveling out, and you mentioned that you're from Colombia, what's been some of the reactions that people have had?
Yeah, well, when I start traveling, it was difficult. For instance, I remember when I tried to book a plane ticket, with the credit card, Colombia wasn't on the list of the countries. When you start looking for the country just to put the address, it wasn't there. Yeah, that was, let's say, 25 years ago. People were surprised, to see, oh, you're Colombian. And they were always curious about our country. We didn't have that many tourism at that time. And also in immigration, they will put us in special lines. We all have this reputation of bringing drugs and all that. It was difficult. And somehow you feel kind of like afraid of arriving at an immigration desk. It was a difficult time for everybody. We didn't have visas to go to Europe. Now we can travel freely through Europe. At that time, you need to apply to a visa. But yeah, everything is so different now, and we have this great country full of tourism. Except this pandemic that has affected everybody. But before that, people were coming, and there's such a great vibe about Colombia.
Bonjour. Good morning. My name is Gina-Mai Simmons, Coley, and I am a Montrealer, Quebecer, born and raised in Montreal. I love traveling. So my dreams when I was a little bit younger was to hit every single country in the world. In reality, after university, I traveled through Europe, enjoying all the countries. So I've traveled in Europe, I've traveled to Japan, I've traveled to South Africa and Zimbabwe, numerous travels in the United States. I traveled with a group called the Colored Women's Group, and what we did was we followed the trails of the Black people in the United States. I've also have friends in the Bahamas, so I've traveled to the Bahamas as well. I have taken quite a few cruises, so in the Mediterranean. And then my next goal was to do Denmark, Norway, the northern countries, as well, of course, I'm a quilter, take a quilting cruise to Alaska. I'm a nurse by profession. I have worked in various areas. So my initial career was in psychiatric nursing. From there, I went to what I call an acute care setting, the hospital. So I worked in general surgery and geriatrics. From there, I went to private nursing homes, managing private nursing homes. And the later stage of my career, it is with Quebec, which you may identify as the people who organize and maintain blood distribution through the province of Quebec.
Gina, it's great having you on our holiday program. And, we know that right now we're going through COVID and all the different things that are going on. And of course, the healthcare providers are by far on the top of our list, people who have dedicated their life to help others. Yes. And it's a pleasure to have you, because also you're my cousin's wife.
Nice to be here.
Okay. You've retired now, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So Gina, I'm glad to have you here. It's really cool having somebody from Montreal, part of our 6 people that we're asking 6 questions from 6 continents, and also that you're a healthcare provider. And right now, the healthcare providers are providing such an important role in this world with this whole coronavirus issue.
I agree.
Obviously, this year, Corona has changed all of our plans, and yes, we've not had the opportunity to do a lot of travel this year. What have you been doing this year instead of traveling?
Initially, because of coronavirus, right, I, as a healthcare professional, have followed basically all of the recommendations by the are public health directors. So I stay home. One positive thing about staying home for me as a quilter, I have much more time to go and partake in that particular activity that I enjoy. I also have read a lot more books. So as opposed to traveling externally and seeing the world with other people, I am able to travel my world internally via books and see the world through that particular author's vision and do a lot of personal reflection.
Question 1. Describe a childhood memory you have during the holidays.
Holidays for us was always going down to Phillip Island, which is down the coast in Victoria, in Australia, near Melbourne. We would always go down there as a family and enjoy the beaches. We'd spend our entire summer holidays there in this caravan park, and it was an absolute delight and so much fun. And I remember also one time when I was young, maybe like 5 years old, my parents took the family to Chile, which is where my father is from, which looking back would have been really costly at the time, but it was so amazing getting to see my family over there, meet them, see how they live, and getting a really severe case of diarrhea at the same time.
Well, what's interesting about both of those places is that they're on the southern hemisphere, and the people who are listening to us right now in Canada, they're in the middle of winter, and so Christmas with the snow and everything, so for you, Christmas is on the beach on Christmas Day and New Year's Day?
Yeah, an Australian Christmas. It's very funny when I have friends from overseas come over and they stay for Christmas and they're like, it's just not real Christmas. Well, I'm sorry, this is real Christmas to me. I bloody love Christmas in summer. It is a time when everybody comes over and we'll have like a Christmas lunch together. It's really yummy, fresh food, like fresh salads and prawns, seafood. There's not that much hot food. We don't really do turkeys here. It might be like a roast chicken maybe. And then you eat yourself crazy and half the room will probably have a nap and the other half goes outside and plays some cricket or gets to the beach and goes for a swim. I love summer Christmases.
My mother had a friend called Christiane in France, and that was in 2002. She died last year she had cancer. She survived for a few years. She fought, but she died. I used to call her Mamo. And I remember that she arranged a beautiful Christmas dinner with a Christmas tree, and I decorated the tree, and all her, dinner was halal. She took me with her to a halal shop to buy the meat and everything because she didn't know what halal was. So she prepared all her Christmas meal with halal meat, and then we had our Christmas, we opened the gifts and then we had the dinner, and it was just an amazing Christmas holiday I ever had. Second was the Champs-Élysées light.
Okay, so I think one of the key things when we would travel away from home for Christmas, it was always going to be a road trip. I remember as a child, we'd always have a road trip. And I think the fondest memory I have about that was because obviously we're in the southern hemisphere, so our Christmases are hot. So it's very hot outside when we have Christmas. And I remember an early childhood memory being the fact that when we would go on a road trip or going somewhere for Christmas, we would have to leave the house very, very early, say maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I think the most exciting thing for us was, we would often have a memory of being lifted out of the bed, but the excitement was waking up at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're still in the car, and you're just about to get to the destination where we're going to spend Christmas. So that for me was, I think, the fondest memory of my Christmases.
And do you have any memory of how maybe the situation with apartheid, or the situation, as you said, your mother was exiled, how that affected maybe your Christmas?
I think I realized the impact of not having my extended family, with the whole family with us at Christmas, only after when I was grown up, and when I got to meet my mother's side of the family when South Africa was liberated in 1994, and were able to see them. So I spent the vast of my Christmases without my mother's family. We only had one side of the family. So I think that was the biggest impact. We knew they were there, but we knew we couldn't see them. And unfortunately, in those days, we also didn't have things like Skype or Zoom calls or WhatsApp calls. So we just didn't see them. So they spent Christmas here, we spent Christmas there. But I think the thing about even though we were apart, we knew that everybody was having a good time at that time of year, and we hoped that everybody was having a good time, despite how difficult things were in South Africa. That the holiday season, we tried to make sure everybody was happy, at least for 1 or 2 days.
Yes, I've been thinking about this because I'm 42 now, so my childhood seems quite a long way away, a long time ago. But I remember one Christmas or one holiday. It was, normally at Christmas you get presents and your mum and your dad and sisters and whoever. And I remember I sort of sat in my lounge, I sat on a beanbag, and they were passing out presents, and I didn't have any. And I thought, oh, right. I was about 13 or 14. Maybe I'll get one later or something. And then we went down to sort of my stepdad's family, and we had a meal and that and usual, and we sort of sat around in the evening under the tree, and they started they were going to have a game of pass the parcel. All right. So they started passing this parcel around, and every time the music stopped, I got the parcel. It was quite big to start with, and obviously it's going around and it's getting smaller and smaller. And then finally it ended up with this like envelope, and the music stopped, and I had this envelope. Oh, I opened it, and inside was a piece of paper with a ticket to go and have a tour around Liverpool Football Club, which is my favourite team, up in the north of England. This was amazing. So that was a really sort of special gift for me, and a special memory I have from my childhood.
When I was probably 9 or 10 years old, we used to go to the beach in Colombia with my family during Christmas, to spend Christmas there. And I discovered Garcia Marquez, our Nobel Prize winner, this in literature, in one of those trips. And reading Garcia Marquez on the coast, which is where his literature takes place, it was amazing. And I remember, spending times on the hammock, reading the book and feeling the coast, and that I think that one of my cherished memories on a holiday.
My childhood memory of the holidays is to go tobogganing. So what my father used to do was take us to the only mountain, Beaver Hill, in Montreal, and the family would have this huge long toboggan, and there would be so much snow that it would packed up and it would create the hills. So the four of us would get on the toboggan and go toboggan down the hill. And we would do that on the weekends, and then come home and, of course, have hot chocolate.
Okay, sounds like I can see it now. I can see you going down that hill.
Yeah.
Okay, one of my fondest childhood memories was the telephone calls that we got on Christmas Day. So because we were always living in different countries, we'd always get phone calls from different parts of the world. So it doesn't matter if we were outside playing in the snow, we'd get called in, and then there'd be the phone calls from our grandparents or from different family members. Or we're on a beach somewhere, and then wherever we're staying, we'd be called in to answer the phone there. I remember clearly at one point, it was Christmas, and we had gotten calls from England, from Jamaica, from different places. And I asked my sister, how do these calls come in? And she said, oh, it all comes in under the ocean. The cables, they're long cables that run underneath the ocean. And back then, when I was much younger, the calls used to be delayed. So sometimes when you'd say hello, you have to wait a little bit, and then the echo will come back. And in my mind, it was like, wow, I could imagine the voices running underneath these cables going all the way from one continent to the other. Even after I got older and I myself was living in different places from my parents and so forth, it was like this feeling of, okay, Christmas is coming. So for me, the most important was the phone calls and just hearing each other's voice.
Question 2. What was one of your most interesting holiday travel stories?
I remember actually, I think it was just before I met you. I was in Cartagena in Colombia and had Christmas there. We had an amazing orphan Christmas with a few people that we'd met at the hostel. Everyone pitched in and brought all this and cooked all this, amazing food. And that kind of beautiful, spontaneous potluck Christmas was so much fun and so memorable. I would love to be back there again this year, doing that sort of thing. That was great.
My travel to Azerbaijan. I traveled there in December. I did a road trip for 1 month. Amazingly, they celebrated Christmas so nicely that I just wanted to be there. The Christmas market was amazing, and the food was amazing. The shows, the Santa Claus, and the creche. I don't know how you call it in English. The creche you make with Jesus and the three wise men. So it was amazing. And then I did a road trip. I went to Naftalan, Ganja, which was like 3-4 hours away from Baku. That was my best experience ever.
I think one of my most interesting travel experiences has been to about 3 or 4 years ago. We went. My family, I've got 3 daughters, and we went with my 3 daughters to my goddaughter's wedding. She's from Botswana, but she was marrying somebody from Cameroon. Who she met in Kenya. So I think our kids are also very globally focused. And it was going to that wedding in Cameroon with my daughters. It was I'd never been to that part of West Africa. Very different experience. It was the English-speaking part of Cameroon. A beautiful part of the world, and a part that I never actually knew existed. I didn't know what to expect, but we loved every minute of it. We had a beachfront house that we stayed in. Absolutely beautiful holiday. I think that was for me, a very special holiday because it was something where I was attending a goddaughter's wedding. But I think one of the things that was also very interesting about that particular holiday is that we were staying in a very luxurious beachfront holiday, all gated up. And when we came out, we literally had to drive through a squatter camp to get in and out of the facility that we were staying in. And that contrast between the wealth and the underprivileged in that part of the world struck not just me, but also my daughters, to the point where one of my youngest daughters now actually wants to study politics so she can eradicate poverty around the world.
Okay, yeah. So 1 year I was in Africa. I was in sort of southern Africa, going up through Central Africa. And I got to Malawi on Christmas Eve and managed to cross the border and get to the capital, which I think is called Lilongwe. I walked into the hostel and it was amazing. I was checking in and this girl come running over and jumped on sort of my back and I turned around. There's this girl I met traveling earlier on my trip, and wow, this is amazing. In the middle of Africa, in a small sort of capital city, who should I meet? But a girl I'd been traveling with like 4 months ago, so that was kind of cool. And then I sort of spent 2 or 3 days there, and got out the next morning, Christmas Day, and they put on like a big Christmas meal, crackers and stuff, and turkey and everything. Middle of Africa was kind of weird. It was hot. And then I remember we went out and sort of sat in the garden under this big tree, and I'd emailed my mum a few days earlier saying where I was going to be and a phone number. I didn't know she'd be able to call me. And then someone came out and said, "Hey, Tony, you got a phone call." It's like, what? Yeah, they brought the phone over and it was me mum and me stepdad and my family. So this is like, I was sort of like topless, sat under this tree in sort of 30 degrees heat, talking to my mum 3 hours away in England. So that was quite a memorable Christmas holiday experience.
2 years ago, I went to the Reunion Island, coast of Africa. It's such an amazing place. You see, it feels like a part of France that is, left in the 70s or something, and traveling in its roads, in a rented car. I don't know. It was beautiful. They have so many waterfalls and cascades and places to swim, and just go in the car and stop and swim and keep traveling and have lunch or dinner in these beautiful small cafes in these towns that feel so far away from everything. That that was an amazing place to visit.
Okay. And do you remember anything special about how they celebrated the holidays?
Not that clearly, because I had an amazing party on the beach. So my memories are scarce of that day, actually.
My interest in holiday trips, it's not just one, it is multiple. As you said, I am your cousin's wife.
Yeah.
And he is from Toronto. So my family is born and raised in Montreal. So we split the holiday season between Montreal and Toronto. So my memories, especially Christmas, would be in Montreal with my family, and in Toronto, skating in, I think it's Philip Newton Square, downtown Toronto, with my husband and his family. So for me now, it is like New Year's, we find a skating rink someplace and go skating. Internationally, I spent one Christmas with my brother. Actually, it was New Year's in Tobago. And it was very interesting because I associate the holidays with snow. So the first time I experienced the holiday season in a warm country, which was very different for me, but quite enjoyable. So I partied all night.
Okay. And the music, the calypso music.
And the calypso music, the Caribbean music, the fact that you spent the time at the beach, lots of alcohol, beach, music, and hot weather. Very, very nice New Year's.
I would say it was about 20 years ago, a little bit more than 20 years ago, the very first time I traveled to Colombia. We were warned, I went with a friend of mine, she and I traveled together, and we were warned that Colombia was dangerous, that we should not be traveling in Colombia. We were warned that, but we did meet one or two other people that had traveled, and they said that they'd had an okay time. And we were so careful. We were like, okay, at that time we didn't have internet or anything like that, so we made sure we made copies of our passports. We hid our money in different ways. People told us things like, okay, well, what you do is you put your money in a Coke can and you crush it and you put it on the floor, so that if the bus was to get hijacked or if the thieves were to come on the bus, they wouldn't be able to get, when they take the money from everyone or they rob everyone, they wouldn't be able to get our money. But actually what we found out that had happened to us, it was just the contrary. We had an amazing holiday. First of all, there was a few things that didn't go as scheduled. So for example, our plan was to make it from the southern end of Colombia to the northern end of Colombia, because of course we were thinking, okay, we want to be up on the beach in Cartagena, and we were going to travel all the way up there. But then the bus schedules got all screwed up and everything, and then we ended up having to spend Christmas in Bogota. And when I had lived in New York, I had a friend who was Colombian, and so she suggested, oh, you should definitely call my family. So I contacted the family and said, okay, we're here in Bogota. And they were like, oh, perfect, we'll come and get you, where are you? And we thought, okay, we're just gonna call and maybe just have tea with them or something like that. And they were like, no way, you had to bring your bags, you had to bring everything, you're gonna stay with us, you're gonna have Christmas with us. So this was like the 23rd, the day before Christmas. So it was the day before Christmas when we met them, and they're like, no, you have to come and stay with us. No, we're not gonna let you stay in a hostel or a hotel, you have to come and stay in our house. And the night of Christmas, so Christmas is celebrated here on the 24th at midnight. We had this amazing meal. They had totally went out of their way so that we would get our own room. We were treated like kings and queens. We were treated like these special guests. When it came midnight and they started handing out gifts to everyone, they'd actually gone out that morning and they had bought us gifts. And I was just like, wow. And I was a little bit embarrassed because I didn't really have anything to give them. But at the same time, they were like, okay, well, thank you for your presence. Thank you for sharing Christmas with us. Thank you for having the confidence of coming to Colombia and traveling to Colombia. So that was definitely one of my most memory holidays that I had, of just being adapted in by this family that just totally took us in. We just had such a great time. It really went against everything that people were telling us about that Colombia were dangerous, people were going to attack us and different things. But if anything, we had completely the opposite experience. Part 2 of this podcast will be featured on episode 41. So bye for now, all the best, and please stay safe.